Nick Bosa got the bag. He'll eventually put on a jersey. How much is he going to play? We're about to find out. It's NFL Game Day preview, friends.
I don't do this for the paycheck. Step out on the field and hear the crowd roll.
Hey, let's go. The time is now. All for one and one for all. Let's go.
I'll be there for life. All I'll be dreaming of, 'cause it's a
Touchdown.
I'm in this for the love.
Bouncer. Oh, no. Unbelievable. What a catch. One center. Oh, my goodness. Yes. Let's go.
I thought I liked it. We have not seen Odell Beckham Jr. on a football field in a game since Super Bowl 56 at SoFi. He was dominating. He got his ring, but he blew his knee out. He is back. He is back as a Raven today and about to get on the field as they take on the Houston Texans. We are so happy that you are here with us. We want this to be your new Sunday routine. This is NFL Game Day preview. We're happy and honored that you're with us for week number 1. My name is Andrew Siciliano. These right here are my good friends Cynthia Freeland and Steve Weich. Happy week 1 to both of you.
Happy week 1. Real football. We had 1 day of it, but now we get a whole day of it, and tomorrow too. So it's the best time of the year, right this moment. It's
Yeah, we're here, but
wait it.
But I'm feeling a little overdressed. I mean,
Okay, can we talk about this? Cynthia came from Game Day morning.
What do you mean?
Obviously,
I woke up like this. This
of
is
course you
actually
did.
how I woke up.
The fancy Game Day morning garb, fantastic. Steve's kind of in the middle, right? Like, we're going to wear the suit, classy, but no tie. And I went like full Mike McDaniel on South Beach, basically.
You look good, though, bro.
We should talk about this. Thank you. As do you. As do you. As do you, wherever and however you are watching. The inactives are in. We're getting closer to kickoff. We're an hour away. Here's who's up and here's who is down. How about Cordero Patterson? Inactive today for the Falcons as they open up against the Panthers. And there's a lot of tight end news on here as well. Zach Ertz is active. Remember, Travis Kelce did not go on Thursday night. That certainly factored. Well, let's talk about this Mark Andrews news because this is big here for the Ravens. Mike Garafolo is with us. Hi there, Mike. Happy game day to you, our NFL Network insider. The Ravens tight end has a quad, and he's not able to go today.
Yeah, he's got an injury to that quad that really did not respond the way that they had hoped. John Harbaugh had kind of said, you don't have to worry about that one. He's going to be fine. That was, I believe, at the beginning of last week, and he just didn't come around, Andrews, that is. So he is inactive for this game. The hope is that he's back next week. They've got the Cincinnati Bengals. You would think Baltimore would say, hey, we should be able to get past the Houston Texans without Mark Andrews. Isaiah Likely expected to step up, and Likely last year closed the regular season with 8 catches for 103 yards. So Baltimore thinks extremely highly of Likely. Let's see if that production or something to that effect he can pick up where he left off in this first game of 2023.
All right, so you guys had the news yesterday on Saturday that Mark Andrews likely wouldn't go. You guys were right. He is officially inactive. What is the deal, however, in Pittsburgh with George Kittle?
George Kittle active for the 49ers. Not the first time that he's had a groin issue that has had him questionable for a game, but he is active for this one. He was limited all last week, so this is one where, yeah, I'd keep an eye on this one as the 49ers will keep an eye on him as well. No indications it's going to be any kind of a snap count, but it's something that they are going to be monitoring through this game. So we'll see how much Kittle is able to go today, how effective he will be, but the 49ers confident that he will be able to make his way through. And by the way, while we're talking about tight end injuries, we've got one Sunday night that we're keeping an eye on. That is Darren Waller, set to make his debut for the Giants despite being listed as questionable with a hamstring injury. I'm told he felt some tightness in the hamstring the other day, and the Giants just pulled back on him, wanted to be safe. He's had some soft tissue stuff in the past, but they think highly of Darren Waller, and they expect him to be a big target for Daniel Jones starting tonight against the Cowboys.
All right, that one popped up on the injury report late in the week as tight ends have kind of been the big injury theme here, if there is one, week number 1. Thank you, Mike Garafolo, our NFL Network insider. David Njoku, Irv Smith, both okay. However, in this game, we have 8 games early and 5 games late. The Battle of Ohio has been one-sided of late. Believe it or not, the Browns are going for their 6th consecutive home game, 6 consecutive home win over the Cincinnati Bengals. Cam Wolfe, live now, First Energy Stadium with us on NFL Game Day Preview. I know Burrow is sick of hearing about that. He was also sick of hearing about the contract, Cam, but they got that done.
Yeah, Andrew, Joe Burrow arrived to the stadium today wearing a cream suit that looked like money after he was made the highest paid player in the NFL. But all attention today will be on his right calf. And I watched him about an hour ago warming up where he was throwing the ball. He was jogging across the field. He was having high knees. And I didn't see any limitations. He was wearing tights. But I talked to Coach Zach Taylor this week, and he said they will rely on Burrow to tell them if he is feeling anything in his mobility that will affect him going forward. One thing that should help the Bengals, this is the 3rd straight season Burrow's missed time in camp due to injury. And so their core of Taylor, Brian Callahan, their offensive coordinator, and their quarterback coach, Dan Pitcher, that continuity of coaching staff and personnel, they feel like that can help them going forward.
All right,
Back to you, Kimmy.
Note to the control room here. Can we get Cam and Joe Burrow side by side if we could? Who wore it best? Because Cam, that is a fantastic
Looking good.
colored
Looking
suit
like money, Cam.
as well. He does look like money. Joe Burrow has been money
Yes.
here. But the Bengals, I think, are sick, guys, of hearing that the Browns have had their number. They split last year, but it's been 5 straight at home. Jamar Chase this week compared the Browns to the Elves, the
That Burrow stepping on right now as he's doing his warm-up.
Exactly. And he said, Cynthia, Cleveland is Cleveland.
Okay. I mean, look, if I'm Jamar Chase and I'm this offense, I want to be ready to go. And, of course, I'm going to be excited and revving myself up. But I think the reality is I think it comes down to safety play a little bit on both sides. We see Juan Thornhill is not playing for this team for Cleveland secondary. And then, of course, the 2 new safeties for the Bengals, that's going to be a big question mark, too, because Jesse Bates and Von Bell, they are elsewhere. So it's going to be interesting to see in this deep passing game what happens and who kind of can Deshaun Watson be the deep passer we once saw him? Are we going to see a lot from Joe Burrow? I think that the injury is okay, but the deep passes to Jamar Chase, is he going to run all over those little elves or what?
Well, I mean, look, he may have to run all over him because there's going to be a lot of pressure from him. And Cam, you did a report earlier this morning. It's not just Myles Garrett anymore for the Cleveland Browns. They've got Zadarius Smith there. And if they can flush Burrow, whether that calf is healthy or not, we know he's somebody who's gone down. He does protect the ball pretty well. But I think the Browns are going to have him under tremendous duress. I mean, they've got a 3-man rotation right there off the edges. They've got some steady play from the interior. And so if Cincinnati cannot run the ball to mix things up well, Cam, I think this edge pressure, you're seeing Jamar Chase right there, they're going to have to improvise with him on the side because that defensive front with Jim Schwartz coaching now in Cleveland, they're going to be getting after Joey B.
And one thing I want to look at today is what Cynthia mentioned, the Bengals defensive backs. You talked about it a little earlier. They have new safeties. Von Bell or Jesse Bates are not there anymore. So you have Nick Scott and Dax Hill. How is that communication? Lou Anarumo is a great defensive mind. His scheme can be complex. And I talked to some people this week who said we expect some mistakes early, but we're going to work through it as the season goes on. One other note to watch, this is Chido Awuzie's first game back since tearing his ACL on this field last year. I'm told they're going to ease him back onto the field this week. So you'll see a lot of DJ Turner, their rookie second-round pick, playing corner. He'll probably play more snaps than Chido today as they try to slow down Amari Cooper and the Browns offense.
DJ Turner, they love his athleticism. He can truly jump out of the gym. Speed. He's got some ups. He also has his hands full with the reworked Browns receiver room. On the Cleveland side, Denzel Ward did clear concussion protocol. He is active. He, too, is good to go here. Former Joe Burrow teammate back at Ohio State. Thank you, Cam. All right, that is one of the 8 early games. That's in the AFC North. In the NFC South, welcome to the NFL.
Leather pants.
Hold up.
Bryce Young.
Hold up.
Wow. He's a rocker, man.
Are those leather pants?
Maybe they're vegan leather. I don't want to accuse him of
Leather
wearing.
Lenny Kravitz here?
He's so Lenny Kravitz.
Come on, man.
Kind of like it.
Charlotte.
Vibes.
A little bit later,
Come on.
we will show you
Vibes.
what Andrew Richardson is wearing. It's like this lime green double-breasted thing with shorts, but
Yes.
we'll focus on this rookie quarterback here first. NFC South battle, they split last year, the Panthers and the Falcons. It's pretty cool. A year ago today, on the 10th, we had Alabama, Texas, Bryce Young, Bijan Robinson, and then we get it here again today as they make their NFL debuts.
Yeah, I mean, look, we talk about Bijan Robinson. He's been the star, the first running back taken this year's draft. He's listed as RB1 for the Falcons, and we know the Falcons' identity is running the football. You saw the explosive plays like this in preseason. Didn't play that much, but they've got a home run hitter there. But, Cynthia, have we forgotten about Tyler Algier?
We have.
Last year's rookie for the Falcons, who rushed for more than 1,000 yards. This is the perfect complement to someone like Bijan Robinson. In today's NFL, we used to have the bruising running back season the defense, and then we go to the versatile running back. That's reversed. Bijan Robinson is going to be the guy to get the Panthers defense running vertically, doing things like this. In the second half, Arthur Smith and that punishing offensive line is going to try to beat the Panthers down and milk the clock and make Bryce have to throw behind that shaky offensive line.
And we are told that Brian Burns is going to be playing. So that's a kind of big, like a pretty big switch, because this Panthers defense, that's one of the strengths of their defense. However, I want to talk about the Falcons defense, because they totally remade it this offseason. And this is a team, by the way, you could take either one of those in fantasy, and Tyler Algier too, because we got to get that in. But ultimately, when I'm looking at this Falcons defense that's complemented by the run game, those two things go together so well. It gives Desmond Ridder such an opportunity to have a really nice start to the season. I mean, I know Jeff Okudah is not playing in the cornerback position, but the chance to rush the passer, and we saw Bryce Young in preseason have a little bit of susceptibility to too much pressure.
The O-line was bad. Let's put it that way.
I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice. But yeah, so we saw a little susceptibility to some pressure. So I think that the Falcons defense and the run game anchor this game.
And a name to keep in mind for Atlanta as a potential emerging star, Arnold Ebiketie, the second
Say it again.
year Arnold Ebiketie.
Just because you can do it. Last name again?
Ebiketie.
Thank you.
The second
You're just so good at it.
edge rusher playing next to David Onyemata. David Onyemata.
Onyemata Ebiketie, you are just a wordsmith.
Freeland as well. Easy to say. Cynthia, going back to game day morning.
Wow.
We miss you.
Peace and
We
right.
thank you. Bye.
for hanging.
Cynthia will be back a little bit later.
for having
She's
me.
going over to the game day morning side. We're going to go over to another game, and that is back to Baltimore. There is Odell Beckham Jr. doing the one-handed thing with the kids watching on the sideline. That is M&T Bank Stadium. It's the Ravens. It's the Texans. Hey, everybody. It's Sherry Burris on Game Day Preview on the field. Sherry.
Andrew, Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson said he is feeling 100% heading into today's game. He will be without one of his favorite targets, tight end Mark Andrews, dealing with a quad injury. But still, we get our first real look at this new Todd Monken offense. Jackson calls it explosive, the ball coming out of his hand quicker. He can't wait to showcase it along with top new players like Odell Beckham Jr. and Zay Flowers. The Texans debuting quarterback C.J. Stroud, the second overall pick, getting advice from players like Justin Fields, Joe Burrow, and Michael Vick. Their advice all summed up: the player you are is enough, and he will need that with 4 starters out on the offensive line, guys.
So a banged-up Houston offensive line. Obviously, Steve, we're excited to see what the Ravens' new offense looks like here. On the Houston side, C.J. Stroud has a very, very tough task today. No quarterback has won his NFL debut against the Ravens. I know it's a small sample size, since our buddy Kurt Warner did it in '99, Week 1, when he was a Ram.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're going to be, like, you're seeing C.J. Stroud right there. They're going to be leaning a lot on Dameon Pierce in this running game, even though Stroud's got some targets on the outside and a decent offensive line. The problem for him is if the Ravens, with this new offense, if they get to an early lead, right, and you've got all of a sudden they start running the ball with J.K. Dobbins and Lamar Jackson. I know we want to talk about their passing game, but that's what's going to be wearing this Texas team down, and then that's going to put C.J. Stroud in a position to have to throw the ball an awful lot to move the chains. That's what Houston does not want to do in this circumstance. So it's going to be a little tough for him playing in this situation. We cannot talk about what we want to see on this out of this Ravens offense, this newfangled offense. I think we're going to see it early, and then a lot of the run game probably from the mid-second quarter on.
Yeah, and when you see what they did in the preseason, right, you go, well, are they actually showing anything? There's so many teams here, right, revamping their offense. They're not going to show you anything in the preseason.
No.
So there is a level of intrigue here that, honestly, I think the Ravens have kind of messed with us as well. They did one of their joint practices with the Commanders. Live streaming showed everything. And this is me thinking, wait a minute, are they trying to show us what they're going to roll out Week 1? Or are they intentionally doing this? I'm going deep here, X-Files stuff. Are they intentionally not putting anything on that so that everything today is a surprise.
No,
Did I lose you?
the conspiracy theory is
Yes.
right there. I mean, look, they're going to show some formations, they're going to show some personnel packages, but they're not going to show you what they're going to do as for a second and third options off of those. Like today, Mark Andrews is not playing, right? The stud tight end, the all-world tight end is not playing, but Isaiah Likely is a great pass-catching threat. We saw Todd Monken at Georgia, the tight end depth and the things he did there, he worked well. So they're going to have some wrinkles off of that. They're going to do some things with Odell and Zay Flowers, but when push comes to shove, it is going to be Lamar Jackson running the ball and handing it off to J.K. Dobbins to keep this young Houston Texans defense completely on its heels.
When Isaiah Likely was the guy in the preseason last year, look up his numbers as a rookie. I know preseason numbers, he is that dangerous in the passing game. That guy is definitely dangerous. After the 49ers traded for Christian McCaffrey, they didn't lose. Yes, I know they lost in the NFC Championship game, but you get my point. Throughout the day on the NFL channel here, you can watch highlights from all the games. Game Center, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, immediately after us. You're watching NFL Game Day preview here, and you are looking live at Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky, and yes, Mason Rudolph is still there. You're looking at a creature, what they now call the stadium in Pittsburgh, formerly Heinz Field. The Steelers and the 49ers for a fascinating Week 1 game. I think Omar Ruiz, as we go live to Pittsburgh, every Week 1 game is interesting. So many unknowns here. These two teams, both with playoff, if not Super Bowl aspirations, make this game that much more fun. Also, some question marks coming into the game. We do know George Kittle is active. What have you seen so far, the Niners tight end out there?
Yeah, we've seen him warm up and look as smooth as he normally does, Andrew. He is not on the injury report, as you listed, and he will play. Nick Bosa also coming back, having signed that huge blockbuster contract extension. He will play today as well. Kyle Shanahan earlier this week referencing his Week 1 of 2021, when that season as well, he hardly practiced in training camp, coming off that devastating 2020 knee injury. Well, Week 1 in Detroit, he played 52 snaps, so they consider Nick Bosa good to go. I spoke with defensive coordinator Steve Wilks for a little bit on the field a little while ago, and he said that they will monitor Nick Bosa's workload based on his stamina. But again, they do consider Nick Bosa good to go. And the Steelers, for their part, they're expecting to see him play like the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, just like TJ Watt did in their 2021 season opener when Watt held in, for the Steelers awaiting his contract and had 2 sacks, a tackle for loss, and 5 quarterback hits on Josh Allen and the Bills, Andrew.
It is the battle of the 2 reigning DPOYs the last 2 years, Bosa and TJ Watt. I also think here, Steve, this will be as physical a game as we have week.
Oh my gosh. I mean, look, we know the Niners get down, right? They're as rough and tumble as they are. Steelers as well. And you can see both of these teams, Andrew, have really invested in their defensive fronts, which is why I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of scoring in this game. You look at the Steelers, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi, Alex Highsmith, who also got a big deal in the offseason. That's going to be tough sledding. They know how to play against a stretch zone run game that Kyle Shanahan's going to roll out, but they got to be quick. They're not going to get a ton of time to rush because Brock Purdy, one thing he does, he gets that ball out on schedule. Let's flip it to the Niners, though. So you got Nick Bosa. He's back with Eric Armstead. Javon Hargrave, one of the biggest free agent acquisitions coming over from Philadelphia, and Drake Jackson, the edge rusher, second-year player out of USC. It is really going to be difficult for Kenny Pickett because their passing game, although quick, it is set up a lot off of run action. So the Steelers have got to get running the ball early, and that is such a difficult thing to do, Omar, against this 49ers front.
Yeah, there's no question. That 49ers defense, once again, is loaded. But you mentioned T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, Minkah Fitzpatrick, all those studs on the Pittsburgh defense. I spoke with General Manager Omar Khan earlier this week, and he mentioned guys like Patrick Peterson and Keanu Neal and Quan Alexander, Landon Roberts, all veterans that they've brought in here to not only add an infusion of talent for the Pittsburgh defense, but also to help continue to develop their younger players. Obviously, they are in tough against this 49ers offense. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, all guys that Mike Tomlin said are space winners and perhaps the best space winners in making guys miss at their positions in the NFL. So they've been emphasizing tackling fundamentals all week long. Alex Highsmith said they tackled to the ground in training camp. Didn't do it so much this week, but it was emphasized to be in proper position, make sure they have their assignments on point, so they're in position to make those tackles, which will be key for them to have success against this Kyle Shanahan offense.
This one is going to be fun. This one is going to be physical. They think they have already won the Super Bowl in Pittsburgh after Kenny Pickett had 5 drives and 5 touchdowns and a perfect passer rating of 158.3.
See that with a little hashtag sarcasm in your voice there.
Hashtag, it's going to be a good game. And we thank Omar Ruiz. Thanks, Omar. Live on the field there in Pittsburgh. Is this guy the next DPOY? Not Anthony Walker, although good to see him back from the horrible injury last year. I mean, the guy back there, that's Myles Garrett. He is a bad man. Coming up, more on this one. Coming up, we go to Foxborough as well. NFL Game Day preview. You're watching NFL Game Day Preview. I told you it's 8 games early and 5 games late. Here's your late rundown. A renewal of the best and oldest rivalry in the NFL, for my money. Packers and Bears, Raiders and Broncos. You got the Dolphins and Chargers. We'll get to that in a second. Rams and Seahawks, I think, will be closer than many others believe. But that one in the middle there is interesting. It's the defending NFC champions on the road against a, dare I say, new-look Patriots team. Joining us live now, he is there early in Foxborough, the star, along with Steve White, who just stepped off stage, of the NFL Report, Mondays and Thursdays right here on the NFL channel.
There you go, Andrew.
There you go, buddy. I'm told 7:15, not 7. 7 would be too easy. 7:15 Eastern Time. It's James Palmer, friends. And we'll start with Jalen Hurts on the cover of every magazine in America, James.
Yeah, the question in Philadelphia, maybe across the country, is what type of season are we going to see from Jalen Hurts, Andrew, after that MVP runner-up year, a dominant performance in the Super Bowl, but they come up short. Speaking to people in the building, they believe he's going to be even better this year. I talked to offensive coordinator Brian Johnson, who, remember, today will be calling plays for the very first time in the NFL, and he's known Jalen Hurts since he was 4 years old, told me that this year in camp, compared to last year, he just sees everything so much better. He processes the information within this offense so much faster and has so many more answers than he did a year ago. So it's only fitting that in his first game of this season, he's going against Bill Belichick, a guy who disguises things so well and mixes things up on defense, and the Patriots are expected to have a great defense. But what head coach Nick Sirianni told me about Jalen Hurts maybe stands out the most, Andrew. He told me what he loves about Hurts is that he has a love of the monotony, the consistency of trying to get better every day, that he loves to be coached hard. He handles criticism so well that it spreads through the rest of the team. I don't want to compare him to Tom Brady by any stretch of the imagination, Andrew, but those characteristics that Nick Sirianni's talking about are very similar to number 12 when they used to talk about him here and working with Bill Belichick.
Look how you professionally transitioned to topic 2, James Palmer. Tom Brady is going to be in the building today as a spectator and an honoree for the first time since he walked away.
Yeah, the first time he's going to be a fan here at Gillette Stadium. And the reason that this is happening, and let's put this clear, this is not going to be the first time that the Patriots are going to honor Tom Brady. He has yet to go into the Patriots Hall of Fame. He has yet to go into the NFL Hall of Fame. There will be more, probably, ceremonies here at Gillette Stadium. But this is the first one, and an opportunity in owner Robert Kraft's mind to allow the fans to have a proper send-off for Brady or a proper appreciation for Brady, a ceremony at halftime Brady that Kraft calls very special and unique. The Patriots have been a little cryptic with this, Andrew. We don't know everything that's going to happen. What we do know is there will be about 20 family members of Brady's here. His kids will be here. His parents will be here. His sisters will be here. I stage just off the side of the field with Big 12 on the sides of it. We're going to have a chance to honor him at halftime of it, they believe, properly, and then he'll watch the entire game as a fan with Robert Kraft or Kraft's box.
Airline ambassador Tom Brady set to be honored at halftime. We thank you.
Yeah, add it to the list.
James Palmer. We'll add him to our list as well. Joining us today. Thank you, James, on NFL Game Day Preview. Just thinking out loud here, what would Tom Brady be worth today? Joe Burrow just got 55. What would Tom Brady be worth today? 60? 70 million? Do I hear 100? There's Joe Burrow warming up. Bengals wearing a white today. We're about a half hour away from kickoff. They are in Cleveland. We're looking at the actives and the inactives here. Cordero Patterson's an interesting one. Mark Andrews, we knew. Chase Young, that one broke last night. I don't know if you're going to play the Commanders' defense here. Maybe. I don't know if that would actually factor. Don't know. Regardless, let's talk fantasy, everybody. I told you Marcus Grant's going to be here. Marcus Grant is finally here as we kick off our brand new show. Marcus, great to see you.
Good to be here.
All right. Week 1, I think you go with the chalk for the most part. I mean, you draft a team, and you're like, well, I'm going to play those guys. Who are your must-start? Let's go through the list here.
Okay.
Quarterback, give me one. Week number 1.
Outside of the chalk guys, I like Kirk Cousins this week with the Vikings going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And look, Kirko Chains, maybe not the first guy you think of when you're talking about high-level quarterbacks, but last year, 9 games with multiple touchdown passes. We know the wide array of weapons he has, from Justin Jefferson to Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. The Vikings were very pass-heavy last year, and the Bucs, I think they've got got a lot of top-line talent in the secondary, but the depth is kind of an issue there for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, you're going to go with Kirk Cousins week number 1. I mean, you didn't draft the guy to bench the guy, and that's actually the issue usually for me when I set my lineup week number 1. Give me a must-start running back week 1.
Well, I'm going to go to a game played right behind the wall there and over at SoFi Stadium. The Dolphins and the Chargers. Raheem Mostert, again, not a name that everybody's thinking about right away. People are thinking about the quarterbacks, a high-scoring game.
You think he gets enough touches?
I think he does.
Okay.
Jeff Wilson, we know, is on injured reserve. I'm not sure how much work they're going to give to Devon Achane this first week. And last year, these two teams played. The Dolphins ran the ball just 19 times in a loss. I think they remedy that mistake against a Charger run defense that over the last few years has not been very good.
No, and you're actually putting that nicely. That's the fascinating thing for me for that game is do either of these teams actually commit to the run, even though they've said in the offseason that they're going to do that. Must-start wideout is also from that game?
Also from that game, Mike Williams. And I think a lot of this for me has to do with Kellen Moore now as the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. The expectation being that the Chargers want to be more vertical. You've got a quarterback with a big, strong arm in Justin Herbert. Let him push the ball down the field. That is what Mike Williams does well. So if this does turn into a track meet, which I believe it will, I think we see a lot of big chunk plays from Big Mike Williams.
All right, and I want to do this every week. We're going to do big name to avoid, like the guy that you drafted or the guy that you always have in the lineup that this week, Marcus, you say you should sit. Who's that today?
It's Najee Harris. And it might be hard to sit him because you talk about drafting him, right? He probably got drafted in the 4th round. You feel sort of obligated to put him in there. I've been worried about him all offseason. He's not been super efficient running the football. Last year was behind a bad offensive line. He's got the 49ers, so that certainly does not make me very excited. Plus, all offseason, the drum beats for Jaylen Warren getting more opportunities have been louder and louder. So you probably feel obligated to start Najee. I get it, but it would make me very worried if I was.
Ian Rappaport this morning said that Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris might actually split carries. And as you say, they are facing the 49ers this week, which is a bad matchup, despite the fact the Steelers have the greatest offensive preseason of all time. Marcus Grant sticking around as we continue here on NFL Game Day Preview. Don't go anywhere. He mentioned the Chargers and the Dolphins. Coming up next, more on that game. Also coming up, we're in New Orleans as Derrick Henry and the Titans are getting ready to face the Saints. Jane Slater is there with the latest. It's day 1, week 1, NFL Game Day Preview. NFL Game Day preview. What a game we got today at SoFi. Kind of a rainy morning in LA, but the sun will be shining through the roof here for the Chargers and the Dolphins. Third time that these two teams have met in 4 years. The Dolphins were here last year. Chargers went there a couple of years ago. Two quarterbacks taken consecutively in the 2020 draft. And they meet again. Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Herbert. That is Marcus Grant, Steve White, I'm Andrew Siciliano. Thank you for watching NFL Game Day Preview, our maiden voyage. You are going across the street to that game after we get done here today. Marcus said earlier he thinks it's a track meet. You don't agree?
No, I think it's going to be a sludge fest. And I want to go back to Week 14 last year where the Chargers, they got hands on the Dolphins receivers. It was a very difficult slog for the Dolphins offense. That's when Tua was playing, and half of the Chargers defense was not. Now they've got Joey Bosa back, the team with Khalil Mack. They've got Derwin James who's going to be on the field in this game. And also, you've got the legend, Vic Fangio, now the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins against his protege, Brandon Staley. These are two defensive stalwarts who really know the strengths of what the other team is going to try to do. I talked to Staley last week. He said, look, my good friend Mike McDaniel, he's going to come out with some new wrinkles we haven't seen before. Offensively, it's going to be tough. But, Marcus, I don't think some of the big plays we're expecting are going to happen because these quarterbacks on both sides are going to be under significant duress.
Well, and this is going to be, though, I think a real test for the offensive coaches in this one, right? Kellen Moore wants to get off to a big start in Los Angeles. We've heard so much about what they want to do offensively. We know what Mike McDaniel wants to do. Andrew mentioned the point, are these teams going to be committed to running the football? So maybe it will be a little bit of a physical matchup, but I do think both these offensive coaches want to try and prove a point in Week 1.
Yeah, and my thing about running the football is Kellen Moore is the new OC here with the Chargers, right? You just mentioned. Kellen Moore comes in there, and I hear, oh, Justin Herbert's really going to throw it downfield now, as if he never threw it downfield before Kellen Moore got there. But they have Austin Eckler. They have Isaiah Spiller. They need to run the football to protect Justin Herbert
and
so
to
he
finish
can throw
games,
it downfield.
to finish games.
And to finish games, whether it's here, Week 1, or in Jacksonville in the postseason as well. And for the Dolphins, Mike McDaniel said, hey, I got to run the football. But he said it all last year. He's had a whole offseason to get there. Will he get there? I got no idea.
No Teron Armstead at left tackle today.
With no Teron Armstead today at left tackle as well. All right, time for Who Scores, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's stick with this one here. A same-game parlay is available on DraftKings. Over 51.5 points. Justin Herbert goes for over 275 yards, and Keenan Allen gets in the end zone. The odds right there on the screen. Our DraftKings same-game parlay. All right, let's get to Who Scores, again, presented by DraftKings, not necessarily from this game. We're going to go, Steve, you first. Who Scores? This is a bit different because when we think scoring here in Raiders-Broncos, people think Devontae Adams. You say?
I say Pat Surtain, the quarterback for the Denver Broncos, is going to get a pick 6. So if you're playing Jimmy G, be prepared to take a hit on this one because there will be that defense.
Hold on, you're going to go with a corner. You're saying a corner is going to score.
Yeah, corner.
I don't think it's ridiculous at all. I mean, Pat Surtain's been awesome. Jimmy G's known to throw it to the other team every once in a while.
He's going to be locked on Devontae Adams. Jimmy might try to force it to Devontae.
Not ridiculous.
All right, Marcus, what do you got? Bears, Packers.
Going more traditional, going Aaron Jones here. I think, especially in Week 1, I think the Packers try to take some of the pressure off Jordan Love. Plus, the Bears' run defense has not been great. At least it wasn't last year. I think a heavy dose of Aaron Jones in this one.
And if we go Cowboys-Giants, are you going to do the same thing?
I am, but a different player. Micah Parsons is going to take one away. We know Daniel Jones, he only threw 5 interceptions last year. Still put the ball on the ground 6 times. Micah Parsons is set for a strip, sack, and score. Yes, I'm going defense twice in this segment to completely turn it on.
Okay, and you're not going like, no Zeke, Micah Parsons is our goal line back.
No,
you're going Micah Parsons, defensive touchdown.
He was my preseason pick for Defensive Player of the Year, so why not start it off with a bang?
He was a heck of a running back in high school in Pennsylvania as well.
But then Jerry would have to pay him, and then he'd have to upset all the other owners if they start paying him.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can go check out those videos. They exist, all right? There you have it. DraftKings Sportsbook. Oh, by the way, is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. And during week 1, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use code GAME when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. The show is yours as well. Talk back to us on Twitter, on anything. Tell us what you want to see.
There he is.
Coming up next, we'll show you Mike Vrabel, his Titans in New Orleans. Jane Slater is there. She's with us straight ahead.
Henry. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the king.
So, somewhat rhetorical question. Is 5 straight years with at least 10 rushing touchdowns good? Kids, good? I think it's good.
I've been told it is.
Derrick Henry's good. How good are the Titans? We're about to find out. Titans, Saints. Jane Slater is in New Orleans. Jane?
Hey, Andrew, well, standing on these sidelines, you can't help but notice all the young kids in 22 jerseys for Derrick Henry. But what's going to be interesting to watch today is what Tim Kelly does with them. Tim Kelly promoted to the new OC. It's a more up-tempo offense, and it's more multiple. And when I went over to the bench and told the coaching staff I was looking forward to seeing it in action, they said, so are we. So does that mean that they're going to pump the brakes on Henry? No. In fact, I was told that he gets better the more he gets the ball. So still expect to see him factor into this offense. It's just he's not going to have to do everything since they went out and got DeAndre Hopkins. Now let's talk about the other runner in this game. It's not going to be Alvin Kamara. That's because his 3-game suspension started this week. Instead, it'll be Jamal Williams, who after his time in Detroit showed he's more than capable of carrying the rock. His 17 rushing touchdowns led the league last season.
And Kendry Miller, the rookie running back as well. Thank you, Jane, from TCU, is inactive today. Also, nobody cares, but I started Jamal Williams today. As I said, nobody cares. I also don't know that anyone knows, guys, what exactly these two teams are. The Saints are the best team we think in a bad division. Steve, the Titans have Ryan Tannehill healthy again, but they lost their last 7 games of the season a year ago.
Yeah, but now Ryan Tannehill has DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to be rolling out a little bit more. You heard Jane talk about Tim Kelly, the offensive coordinator, used to coach Deshaun Watson down in Houston. So I look for some more movement out of Tannehill. But a player we haven't talked about enough who kind of had an injury plague last year was Marshawn Lattimore. Came back late after a lacerated kidney injury. He is going to be matched up on D-Hop a lot. I'm sure you'll see Tennessee early do a lot of motion to try to see how much he's going to follow D-Hop. That's the matchup, because I think Marshawn Lattimore is a player who could have a real bounce back year. He's going to be in the comeback player of the year conversation. And he said, we don't know what these teams are. The Saints are a defensive-led team, so we do know that.
They are a defensive-led team, but they also are breaking in a new quarterback, right? Derek Carr, they're now getting his first start for the New Orleans Saints. Curious to see sort of how he spreads the football around. I think he's sort of a good combination of what they had with Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton last year. You talk about the Titans, too. Like last year, they struggled at the end of the season, but it's a division with a lot of unknowns. Yeah. We believe the Jaguars are the best team in the division, but we don't know that for sure. And with the way Mike Vrabel has coached this team, there's no reason to count them out at this point in the season.
100%.
The entire NFC South has a new starting quarterback week 1 as compared to last year week 1. That hasn't happened in an entire division with 4 teams in over 20 years. Derek Carr had 142 starts with the Raiders. This is his first today with the Saints. That is the NFC South. In the AFC North, we got a pretty good one today in Cleveland. Let's go on the field as we get closer to kickoff. We are inside of 15 minutes away from kickoff now. The Browns go in brown jerseys, orange pants. And let's go back to the Steve White. We don't know what they are yet. Are we getting Deshaun Watson from 2020? Are we getting the, I wouldn't even say mediocre Deshaun Watson from the last 6 games of last year? That would be bad. It's got to be better than what we saw in December, right?
It's got to be better. Look, we're seeing it right now go under center while he's taking warm-ups. The big conversation at training camp was the shotgun. He likes to play more out of shotgun. They're going to be a shotgun-dominant team. How is that going to affect Nick Chubb in this run game, who was better under center with quarterbacks playing under center?
Less outside zone maybe in the
Less
shotgun.
outside zone, or maybe they do something with the RPO with certain blocking schemes. That's going to be the big question here today. I think you're going to see a lot of running from both Watson and Chubb to try to milk the clock, wear it out so Joey B doesn't have more opportunities than he needs to have.
I think that's sort of the thing, right? You want to keep that Bengals offense on the sideline as much as possible. And I do think the point about Nick Chubb is a valid one. I don't think that Deshaun Watson is going to be as bad as what we saw last season. I don't know.
Better not be.
Well, as much as the Browns have invested in him, I mean, they're all in. They need him to be better. I don't know if he's 2020 Deshaun Watson. He just has to be competent, because I think this year is a year, at least early, they really lean on Nick Chubb the first few weeks.
And no Kareem Hunt. He is still a free agent. Jerome Ford, who redshirted last year, 5th-round pick out of Cincinnati, is the new number 2 back behind Nick Chubb. That is the new number 1 paid defensive player in the National Football League. Congratulations, Nick Bosa, who didn't have any contact in practice. He got here late in the week, did the deal late in the week. Kyle Shanahan said that unless he shows up with a beer belly, he's going to play.
He doesn't have one.
I don't see a beer belly,
not
Marcus.
Seeing one. Not seeing one here, and this is obviously big for the 49ers to have Nick Bosa back. Change of defensive coordinator with Steve Wilks taking over after D'Amico Ryans left, but when you've got Bosa on one side, they've added Javon Hargrave. They've got talent, especially up front. Not to say Steve Wilks isn't good at his job, but it certainly makes it a lot easier when you've got those guys suiting up for you.
Steve Wilks is the new DC, the former head coach in Arizona, last year interim head coach in Carolina. He takes over for D'Amico Ryans, who is now the head coach in Houston, and they have the Texans on the road today with a tall task. Steve, that is shutting down Lamar Jackson, Todd Monken's new offense in Baltimore. Good luck.
Yeah, it was what Lamar's been wanting. They finally got in some outside receivers. I think early on, we're going to see a wide array of this passing game, especially with tight end Mark Andrews out. They're going to be playing a little bit more outside the numbers. But once they get that lead, it's going to be Lamar and Dobbins and Justice Hill and the Gus Bus running the football we're not going to see the full aerial expanse of this offense for a couple weeks.
Remember how good J.K. Dobbins was down the stretch last year? Look at those numbers. The guy's rarely healthy, but when he is, and when he was back late last year, he was a force. We're about 12 minutes away from kickoff now. Let's do some quick picks. We're going to do this every week here on Game Day Preview as we get closer to 1 o'clock Eastern. The first one we're going to do, the Bucs and the Vikings. We all agree, and actually you're going to sense a theme with these, we all agree Vikings.
Yes, we all agree Vikings on this one. Look, in the situation with Tampa Bay, we don't know if they're going to score. Same thing about last year, and they don't have Tom Brady.
Yeah, it's very much that. I think this is a game where if you are the Bucs, you have to try to keep the Vikings from getting in the end zone, because if Justin Jefferson and those guys get loose, it could be a really frustrating day.
I think Brian Flores, and they've stripped that defense down, right? It's not what it was in terms of the veteran presence the last couple of years. I think Brian Flores gets after Baker Mayfield today. He will heat him up. Curious to see what happens when he does, because we know that Baker has a tendency under pressure to turn the football over. All right, our next quick pick game in Washington. Sam Howell makes his debut for the Commanders against a Josh Dobbs-led Cardinals team. We are all going Commanders.
I'll go with the Commanders. Don't know if we drove in or we took the bus in, but the Commanders have more players. I mean, Arizona's roster, I mean, okay, you got to put pin the tail on a donkey to find out who some of these guys are. Plus, Washington, with Eric Bieniemy calling the offense, they look like they had some semblance of the tough identity he wants to establish.
You mentioned earlier Chase Young, I know, inactive for the Commanders. That front still is very tough. The offensive line in Arizona is full of holes. So good luck to Josh Dobbs. He's going to have a lot of guys in his face, I think, all day.
Yeah, good luck to Josh Dobbs, who, by the way, is one of my favorite people in the NFL. This is his third career start. He got 2 starts late last year when Malik Willis couldn't cut it. He tried to get the Titans into the playoffs. He is a great story. He is also quite literally a rocket scientist.
Literally.
But I don't know that he can pull it off today in Washington. Our next one, we all agree. We didn't do this on purpose.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? We all agree Falcons over the Panthers. Although, honestly, I don't know what we're going to get from Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, and nobody's. I don't think we're going to know this after the game. I think he's going to be throwing the ball probably no more than 22, 23 times. It's going to be the Falcons' run game. That is their identity, and this newfound defensive front with Ryan Nielsen, the new DC coming up for the Saints, I think they're going to be all over Bryce Young.
It feels like the biggest endorsement for Desmond Ridder this offseason has been that he's not Marcus Mariota after what happened last season. On the other side, you've got Bryce Young making his first career start. No DJ Chark. Adam Thielen is less than 100%. That's a tough way to go.
Yeah, Desmond Ridder, I'm a fan. And by the way, he's never lost a home game, ever. 44-0 in college, 2-0 last year when he took over late. He has never lost a home game.
That's a good one.
I just don't like the accuracy. That's my concern today.
With the first pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Bryce Young.
He's heating up. Bryce Young threads the needle.
What a strike. Welcome to the National Football League, Bryce Young.
The Houston Texans select C.J. Stroud, quarterback, Ohio State.
Touchdown, 31 yards. C.J. Stroud.
The Indianapolis Colts select Anthony Richardson, quarterback, Florida.
Anthony Richardson is dangerous in the open field. Richardson has the Gator touchdown.
This is going to be a fun offense to watch in Indy.
We have already hit Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. Here is what I was referring to earlier. Ooh. Anthony Richardson showing up for work, resplendent in the double-breasted lime green jacket with the bow tie and the shorts.
The Nate Burleson collection, except the short.
That's right.
Nate also does the shorts here as well. He is the 7th different starting quarterback in 7 years, week 1, Steve, for the Colts.
Yeah, and that's not good. I mean, ever since Andrew Luck retired, I mean, that's where they are. Look, it's going to be a tough day for Anthony Richardson right here, because if the Jags get up early and it's 14-0 or something, that's going to force Anthony Richardson to throw the ball or run it an awful lot to get this offense going. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be like this all season long for him. We're going to see flashes, but this is going to be a potentially rough start.
A lot of people obviously watching Anthony Richardson, but I think a lot of eyes on the Jaguars too. I mean, after the way they finished last season, that big comeback against the Chargers in the playoffs, it's time for them to really prove who they are. And this is an opportunity against the team that, at least on paper, they have outmanned. They need to come out and I think really kind of establish themselves right away.
They were a playoff team. They took the Chiefs to the limit. They knocked Mahomes out before he came back in. They obviously had the rally from down 27-3 to beat the Chargers. I'm buying the Jaguars, but I don't know how good they are. Are they merely the best team in a bad division, or is this an AFC contender?
Calvin Ridley's going to help.
Calvin Ridley does change everything. We get closer and closer to kickoff on NFL Game Day Preview. Looking down now, we are 6 minutes away from kickoff as we see Brock Purdy, 6 months to the day since he had that surgery, back on the field here, leading the San Francisco 49ers as they are in Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. Much like a bold prediction, let's do, guys, a Sunday statement as we are 5 minutes away from kickoff. Steve White, your Sunday statement is?
Taysom Hill is going to have 2 scores. I don't know how they come. Block punt, fake punt, tight end catch, run the football. But Taysom Hill from the Saints against the Titans, whose head coach was a tight end, or defensive end, who scored as a tight end a few times. He's going to know something about it.
I love how you went Surtain, Parsons, and then the Taysom Hill.
I'm coming out of nowhere.
Touchdowns.
Oh no, I'm completely off the grid with this.
That's going to blow up fantasy football if he scores touchdowns this week. It absolutely is.
I feel like you're intentionally trying to write the wacky ending of the show.
Yes.
Okay, Marcus, what do you got?
Well, I'm going with Russell Wilson's road to redemption starts today. And last year, obviously, was about as bad as it could have been for Wilson and the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton comes in tasked with trying to get Russ back to where, at least to some semblance of what he was in Seattle. I think it's going to be a good season. Maybe not spectacular, but it'll be a pretty good season for this Broncos offense. And if there's any defense to start with, it's probably this Raiders one. This gives him sort of a soft target based on what Las Vegas has been the last couple of years. So if Russ is going to prove that he can still cook and that he is not cooked, I think it begins today against Vegas.
I'm going to push back a little bit. I was in Denver a few weeks ago for the joint practices between the Rams and the Broncos. He didn't look good. Now, Jerry Jeudy got hurt. He's unlikely to go today with the hammy. I think he plays reasonably well today, but I don't know that he can meet the high bar that Sean Payton's going to want as we get towards mid-season here, and they, my prediction, are mediocre. But I think they could pull off a victory here today. My Sunday statement, let's go back to Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, I'm not going to put a sack total on it today, but I think that by the end of the day, we showed you Nick Bosa earlier and TJ Watt. Myles Garrett is in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
It's only one game, I realize. Anyone's in the conversation after one game. If Micah Parsons gets his touchdown, he's going to be in the conversation as well. Patrick Surtain, anybody. But Myles Garrett has 11 career sacks against the Bengals. They're going to line him up wide. Right? Jim Schwartz is going to let him go. You have Obo, you have Zadarius Smith, you have Dalvin Tomlinson on that reworked defensive line. Myles Garrett is going to eat today. There is my Sunday statement. My last statement is this. This is going to be fun every week.
Yes,
absolutely.
Marcus Grant, Steve White, Cynthia Freeland, all our reporters in the field, Mike Garafolo. This should be your new Sunday routine. Can you make a note of it? Hopefully you do, and hopefully you liked it. Noon Eastern, every Sunday. NFL Game Day Preview. For all of my friends here in LA, my name is Andrew Siciliano. Enjoy week 1, everybody.
Welcome to NFL Game Center, presented by FanDuel.
They bring him in. That's the only change from last year, but it strengthens that offensive line. And here we go, playing with tempo.
On third down, Pickett evades one, can evade two as Drake Jackson slams him down. It's a sack back to the 20 for the second-year man at a USC.
And again, we talked about at the top, working on that escapability, just having that athleticism to be able to extend these plays. But you also have to know when it's over, when to throw it away. Don't take those sacks. Don't give up some yardage to give the San Francisco 49ers positive field position after this punt.
Jackson's going to work from the gun on 3rd and 2. Here come the Texans. They pick him up initially, but then Jackson is buried. And how about this start for this Houston defense? Jonathan Grenard hits around Jackson.
This is really a good inside rush off of the left side by Grenard, and he's just able to get up there, work inside, and peel off of the block. Texans going with a little bit of zone coverage, dropping everybody back, but Grenard.
Protect their rookie quarterback on second and 5. Who has deflected. Stroud actually catches the deflection. And was just barely able to get back to the line of scrimmage. It was Patrick Queen who got his hand on it. And they end up losing a yard to set up a 3rd and 6.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to talk about somebody looks like is down. That looks like, is that Kyle Hamilton?
It is indeed Hamilton as the athletic trainers come onto the field. Another look at the deflection at the line of scrimmage. This is Baltimore defense playing without their star in the back, Marlon Humphrey. Still recovering from that foot surgery as he continues to get closer for the Ravens.
Play action. Kittle. First down, San Francisco. George Kittle, who is questionable really all week. And even yesterday when we talked to Kyle Shanahan, he didn't seem real optimistic that Kittle was going to be ready as he deals with that groin injury.
And just some confidence here. You see George Kittle, 85. He's going to go in motion. Now you're giving him that extra step. You've got to cover him from the inside out. There was a nice release on that play that forces a Landon Roberts to have to step underneath. You created the separation by the design of the play.